welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. MC. You got me laughing at a point. Economic freedom fighters, fighter general.
Yes.
Remind me, I haven't heard of Julius Malema in so long. And when I heard you speak, it reminded me of one messiah from the southern part of Africa, Julius Malema, who has not just economically fought for South Africa, but brings a very youthful dimension to the fight and the reconstitution of energies in South Africa. And I think that it is beginning to trickle down, and not just South Africa, but across Africa, and even Africans in the diaspora. I bring you greetings. I am very humbled. I thought that I was going to listen to some teachings before I could actually add my little knowledge that I was here to share, because in this room I recognize the presence of His Royal Highness Prince Duke, who might not remember me, but when I was head of protocol at the Ghana Mission in New York, I'd met him a few times. And I also pay courtesy to my teacher and then my coach, who technically has coached almost everybody who has come across her, Catherine Ingman. Thank you very much. I will always say, a very brief story about my relationship with Catherine Ingman. You know, when I moved back to Ghana 3 years ago, I'd gotten a job as a head of resource mobilization with the ACE Commission. And a young man was putting together young entrepreneurs and young-minded people called the Mastermind Social Capital, which was CEOs of various companies, and I happened to find myself in when I wasn't even yet a CEO. And one of this amazing person was Catherine Ingman, who was giving guidance to members of this platform. And one day she said to me, you know, I think you should come to me and then I'll show you some books that I have. One of them was Think and Grow Rich. And you know what? After Think and Grow Rich, I think about 4 months later, I resigned from the AIDS Commission and I founded Allied Exchange Africa. For all of you who don't know Allied Exchange Africa, probably you have heard Alex Pay, which is a mobile payment platform that just won the Global Innovation Award and the International Business Award also from Dubai. But I am very honored to be here. My topic, I'll just go straight to my topic. I'm not going to bore you very much. When I listen to the three change makers, I mean from Akofa, Joshua, and Hadi, it reminds me of one thing, that even at our local level, we need certain things to guide our ideas, our minds, to be able to make the change that we do. My topic is supposed to be contemporary issues in international leadership and the role of change makers. And when you talk about contemporary issues in international leadership, again, I remember having texted Catherine and said, I am confused, where do I take this from? Yesterday, she said, do what you have to always do. That part you didn't help me, but I love you for that actually. It kept me into thinking. When you talk about the role of change makers in international leadership, first I want to classify international leadership into two parts. The first part is the business aspect of leadership internationally, and the second part is the social development leader. Joshua talked about his idea to be able to let people understand where the internet is taking us, okay? But he's an entrepreneur. At the same time, he's solving a need of society, which makes him also a social entrepreneur. But when you look at internationally, you always then remind yourself, okay, it's the United Nations, or it's the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, or it's the Ford Foundation, or the World Food Program, something international. But think about even your business with that international value. And that brings me again to a story that I want to share with you. Someone said he was selling pure water. Then my my brother, Cephas Boyo, who is CEO of Bokan, came with me. Asked me, do you remember when I used to sell water in the cups? Remember, before Sachet water, there used to be water in the cups. He did that. And I remember seeing myself in Catholic University of Ghana. Those of you who are here, members of PUSAC, I was the founder of PUSAC. And on my third year, I think I got too involved in leadership, that whole thing of leadership, GUNSA, Ghana United Nations Student Association, because I projected life to be that international thing. And this university did not take it lightly with me because they thought I was challenging the status quo. And one day I was invited to the dean's office and said that the leadership of the university wanted to meet you. Then I walked in and they said that I had challenged the status quo and I was trying to indoctrinate students to fight for their rights simply because I had taken GetFund to court, looking for GetFund buses and GetFund money to be spread across universities, whether private or public. Because I felt that as young people and our parents were contributing so much to these taxes that were used for GetFund, and hence whether private or public, you were entitled as a citizen of Ghana. And after winning that case, I'd met the biggest circumstance that I'd met, which was the university decided that I should be expelled. I then came to Accra in search of greener pastures, and that saw me at Tedekwashi was just freshly built, and I was one of those first hawkers selling water there. 2 years down the line, I found myself working as a printer boy at the World Bank through a very generous guy who liked the fact that I would dress in a trouser and wear a shirt and a tie to sell water. And his name, I remember him, and I always respect him. I go to his house, Mr. Kofi Chikata. And he said to me, I have a conference, international conference. You should sit there and talk about youth and agriculture. I'm coming from Bonku, so I know definitely about farming. I am young, and after that conference, it changed my life. 3 days later, I found myself receiving a $50,000 grant to go to Liberia and practicalize what I said. 6 months in Liberia, I was given a full scholarship to the US to start all over education. I'm building this place because I'm coming to setting decisions that young people make versus what leaders make locally and what leaders internationally actually take on. Today, I always make reference to this story because it cuts across when every family has issues. But is our system developed in such a way that some of these issues that technically, look at me, young, smart, maybe, let me put it that way, student, but yet I wasn't given that opportunity to develop my capabilities here. And then somebody tells me, come home one day and do national service. That is a decision. It is a leadership decision that people do not put a lot of thinking into before actually writing these policies. And so at the international level, which is where I'm going straight, I'm going to take you on the business level. In a business setting, okay, of our world, at international level, but be it local or international level, there's a lot of challenges. You see a business built to a point where you think that it's a multi-billion-dollar company. It is a multi-billion-dollar company. When you look at the lives of Mark Zuckerberg, for instance, he's built a business from nowhere to somewhere. Of course, he had the connect. He went to the Harvard, he mingled with the right people, and then he began to build that network and then started a business. But there are certain things that actually made him successful. His attitude was one. The fact that you find a young person starting a business with not the right attitude, and in that attitude actually comes across, be it business leaders or social change or social development attitude. Even in the United Nations where I work, a lot of our leadership actually strives on attitude. You will find leaders who technically do not believe in their own workers. Their attitude towards the workers is not right. doesn't give the enabling environment for communication to actually flow between the leader and not. And the communication measures, you talk about communication, how it has to be a two-way. I mean, you have to send and you have to get a feedback, and that feedback is supposed to actually help you make a change. At the international level, international leaders face the same issues. They face one issue, like from attitude, that connects to most of their arrogance, that connects to so many things, and that makes it difficult for them to strive. So the first thing I just talked about was the fact that we need to change our attitude. And it's a global problem. I remember when the rector was speaking, he talked about the fact that he moved somewhere and saw a house and everybody was dumped there. It's an attitude. A leader sits in the room, you're supposed to come up with a policy for young people, but your attitude towards that young people is not putting him first. I believe that if the older generation put young generation first, if they put my future first, I do not think that I would have technically been sacked from the university. But again, my life wouldn't have been this way. It would have been worse. Okay? So, I just want you to know that wherever you find yourself, it is the attitude that technically somebody has towards where you have come from that technically leads you. The second thing I want to talk about is it's the failure of communication, which technically links to what I was saying about communication. At the international level, even within the UN, the politics within the United Nations, the politics within the international organization, the politics that you see here is less than the politics you see at the international level. A decision-making process within the UN system, for instance, right, can take one day, but can take a lifetime. It is your ability to be able to be a lobbyist if you want the decision to be made as fast as you want. And it is the same thing we see in our institutions. I'm sure that when Akofo was going to meet the Minister of Tourism, you had to go through a number of protocols. And that is where we find ourselves as young people. So you need to keep pushing to ensure that you get it right. You get to meet the right person who will take you to the right person, who will take you to the right person. And that right personal meeting actually is what prolongs the decisions. And by the time that decision is taken, you do not even need that anymore. The other thing I want to talk about is the lack of clear vision in our international leadership society. Clear vision. When you look at the thematic areas that the UN chooses for us, you ask yourself, how do they come up with those thematic areas? One of the best things that happened to us as people of this world was when Kofi Annan was Secretary General. In his time, the whole administrative system of the United Nations was completely overhauled, and it took a leader, it took a bold man to do it. In his time, he came up with the concept of the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, which successfully ended, and then now we have the Sustainable Development Goals. And you know what is going to happen? It is going to finish, and they are going to have another goal. You set your priorities knowing that you cannot do everything, but you still set it. When there are low-hanging fruits or low-hanging things that you can continuously do, certain decisions, you must have certain visions to be able to do them. I remember when I left New York in 2015 and I said I was coming to Ghana, everybody thought I was mad. There was a young guy I was working with the UN, I was climbing up the ladder very fast. I had an investment, I had a nightclub, I was making a lot of money. I had an offer to be an accountant at Persistent Energy, and I was like, you know what? I'm done, 10 years. Let me go home. But you know what? I wanted to come home with one clear vision. The vision was to be a member of Parliament of Garou. Garou, why Garou? Because that's where I'm from. And why there? That's because my uncle, who was member of Parliament, was there for 20 years. Yet I received calls every single day from people looking for money to buy food. He was there for 20 years, and it's 20 years there was no single road. The borehole, I was born by a borehole, that's why they named me Moses out of water. The borehole I was born is still the single borehole serving over 22,000 people. Wow. And this guy has been in power for 20 years. That is the leaders we have. And it translates internationally, everywhere you get it. Then in 1 year, I said to the people, I was giving you as many boreholes as it wasn't my money. All I did was to go back to my university, City University of New York, and said, this is my problem. This is the problem of the people. And you know what? They came out in their numbers to do drives, to raise money. And we came and we gave boreholes, we came and we did schools, paintings. And within a year, the people who had never heard about me had voted in such a way that I lost the vote by 211 votes. That tells you that people even want the change. But it is how we present ourselves for that change. So I'm going to bring my last point before I go into the role of you change makers, which will bring me back to this point I'm making. Poor execution of our visions. The way you select your vision, the way you communicate your vision, and how you execute your vision. Those are the 3 points that I'm trying to make. How do you execute your vision? That brings me to network. You see, I'll share network because it's an experience. The power of network is very important. And that is why when you go to certain gatherings, you see the same people together all the time. At the international level, it is like that. You go for a function and you see all those working in the UN, they are sitting at one place. Even if they came differently. You see all those working at the presidency in one place. You see, the way you keep your network determines your success in mobilizing not just intellectual knowledge, but also resources that it requires to execute that vision. I see young people today and I ask myself, are you making the right decisions to choose the kind of people around you? What change can they bring to you? What value will they give to you? You know that the computer man, delete. That function, delete.
Yes.
I have cultivated some habit. And so every year I go on my friends list and I look, delete. And then when it comes the option, delete one or all. If I have to delete all, I delete all. Because it's an assessment of how much they've had an impact on me. Okay? And so if you want to be able to execute your vision, you need to first belong to the right network. And you need to make your vision so simple and clear that achieving and executing it does not actually pose for you challenges. Again, I belong to a platform with Catherine Ingman. It's called the Senate. We are not senators. We've not been elected, but we are called the Senate. It's 120 young professionals and CEOs of various companies. And you know what? We just meet and eat many times. However, the kind of business that goes on the platform, the kind of support, the kind of network energy that we exchange among ourselves. If I need something today, all I have to call, put it on the platform. Hey, I need this thing. Who has it? And within a second, I get it. Belong to the right platform that will aid you to achieve and execute your visions. That is a major challenge for our international leaders. And it comes across, like I said, both business and non-business. That brings me to this point of the role of you change makers or as change makers. And this is where I love, because from all the 3 previous speakers, they had shared with us their visions and how they're making change. You know, there's one main difference between change makers and the rest of us. And it's simple. Whilst many people waste time looking for what to change, how to change it, if they'll be able to change it, asking themselves their questions, change makers are those who think about it and they do it. They do not care what comes. They will do it and make sure it succeeds. That is a change maker. I have seen many times young people start a venture and then fall and then don't get up and say, that is it. I've seen many times people, they know that they're going the right way, okay? But someone tells them that this might not work and kills their spirit. If you're sitting here, you want to be a change maker, you have to be a change maker. You must be a change maker. And again, everything I share with you is from experience. I do not like taking things from people. I like to share my experience. Today, Alex Pay in 15 months has grown to be receiving all these awards. I am not a tech guy. But just yesterday, I went interviewing more than 20 tech people looking for developers in USSD and Gateway, and it is even difficult to find. So when you hear the likes of Joshua and Co putting together all these people in one basket, that is the change that some of us are looking for. When you hear Kofa speak about how people litter, and sometimes you have to scream at them. You scream at them, they get angry. You scream at them more. They'll get angry, they'll walk away. You come back, scream at them again. This is what it is. That's how you force change. I'm not a tech guy, but I can tell you every single function and flow on all my network and all my. And this is in 15 months. Started thinking about how to build an interoperable platform that allows you to send money across the network. And I moved to Ghana. And I didn't have the money. I went back to the US and I began to teach. Met a 72-year-old man in an elevator. And what all my teachers taught me about elevator speech had to play. I remember what I said to him. I said, I hear you're a tech genius. Do you want to deploy tech at cheaper rate and make more money in profit or transactions? And all he had was cheaper technology, more money. That's all he had. He gave me 20 minutes. To come find out, he was a former founder of PayPal, Just Limbaugh. And today, he's a 45% holder of my company. He owns the largest payment system in Brazil. And he said to me, I will give you the technology, but I'm not coming to Africa. You know how many times he has come to Africa in 15 months? 6 times. He's coming next week 7 times. Right? The first time he was coming, his wife called me more than 20 times. So the military is supposed to arrive earlier. We are in touch with the US Embassy. I'm like, military for what? Are we carrying our own water? These are people, they have the money, they're sitting there. They need someone to educate them. Where do I want to go with Alex Pay? I want Alex Pay to be in all 54 countries. Where am I now in 15 months? I'm in 11 countries. Never sleep. So if you want to do, you have to do. I'm looking to build a business where I will sit down and make your transactions and I'll make money. Will you make transactions or not? You will. You must make transactions because your families need the money. It is change. It's something that you have to be able to say, you know what, I have to do. So as we leave here, let us leave here with certain minds. The positiveness, our attitude, our ability to communicate to the people, not just around us, but everywhere, how to craft our vision, and how to execute the vision. I do not think that if you did not have a clear vision, you would not be seated here. By mere virtue of the fact that you have gone through certain academic errors, and you are here, means that you want to be a change maker. I'm going to just end by one of the things that Nkrumah talked about. We refer to Nkrumah many times because it's one of the guiding principles of what I have lived by. Before we can actually achieve emancipation, we have to change our mind and attitude. If you sit down, you cannot change your mind and attitude, then forget it. I have changed my mind and attitude from politics. And I say it, people don't believe it. But I do not go anywhere. And so when he said, Honorable Kanduri, I'm like, okay, he's not being informed. I have come to fall in love with business. It's business, that's my mind, that's my attitude. Politicians can talk all they want to do, but if it's not making change, forget it. I have to do change. I have to change my attitude, and I have to change the attitude of people immediately to me. Let's empower ourselves. Let's empower those who need our help to be empowered. You know, and then finally, I I just want to say, look, I have 5 sisters, right? And I say that if I do not empower any of all my sisters, tomorrow the biggest benefit is going to be on me. Why? She's the mother. In many times, she is the father of the house. But we have to take off some of that heavy load from them. I'm not a feminist, right? But I believe in empowering women. We can have all these conversations around change, and yet the majority of the people who actually make the change, start the change from home. Our mind as husbands, even as boyfriends, as brothers, when we are leaving home, it has to be, you have to leave the house with the mind of positiveness. And it is a woman. So please, as we move on, let us acknowledge that, and let us move to the next level. And that's why I always salute Catherine. And I know there are so many of others out there who are doing the same thing. And I just want us to know that being an international leader requires a lot of work from your own local community. A local community where there's no garbage, a local community where women take the lead at the table to sit and have a conversation. Young people have the same seat on the table, and our policies must change. And once our policies change, we are good to go. And if we sit down and let these politicians continue to say, we must do your policies for you, forget it. You're on your own. And so, I wish you all the best. I know it's going to be a very packed day, because you've just had a little. Wait till you hear from His Royal Highness and the John Maxwell team. And your lives will never be the same again. Amen? Amen.